Alright, so at the time that I'm doing this, the Pittsburgh Penguins are 2 wins away from a Stanley Cup. And I'm sure Pens fans are very excited about this turn of events, as they should be. And it really doesn't matter about the contracts or anything right now, because all is well. But there are some interesting moves that are going to have to be made in the offseason. Because it's just going to happen. Up front, they're returning forwards. Malkin, Crosby, Kessel, Hornqvist, and Hagelin. And these guys are all returning for less than $1 million a year. Gensel, Rust, Kuhnhackl, Wilson, and Rowney. It's borderline criminal that Pittsburgh is this good and has that many guys coming back under very nice contracts for them, especially Gensel, who is right now a consummate frontrunner in my eyes. RFAs, Archibald, Connor Sheary. Now, Sheary hasn't been as dominant this year as it was last year, so I don't think he's going to get a huge raise. And Sundqvist, who I don't think is going to get a huge raise either. In the wings, waiting for their shot, NCAA free agent signing Aston Reese is going to get his shot in the fall to play with the Penguins. And I think Daniel Sprong is finally going to come up this coming fall. I say finally, but it's his third training camp this fall. So I think this is the time to make it stick. And they lose Bonino in this situation because I just can't see them keeping Bonino as a UFA. And I don't think that's going to make a huge difference for them either. Bonino's had sort of a renaissance playing for Pittsburgh, but honestly, playing third-line center on that team is simply a luxury for almost any player. And it certainly has been that for Bonino. On the blue line, there's some more uncertainty than anywhere else. Letang, Mata, and Cole. Those are the three returning defensemen. Dumoulin and Schultz are both RFA. Schultz is going to get paid. They have $12.9 million in cap space, and I would say $4.5 million of that will get eaten up by Schultz. Now, of course, this is working with the $73 million cap, not necessarily what it could end up being, but what it is right now. And then there's a bunch of question marks. Does Derek Pouliot finally make the team? He's been on the fringes for the last few seasons. Is he ever going to be a Penguin, or is he likely to end up just going to Vegas because he's not going to find a spot in Pittsburgh? Does Daly come back on a deal? Does Hainsey come back on a deal? I would argue that both Daly and Hainsey are playing some of the best hockey of their careers as members of the Penguins. And for veterans, sometimes that's more important than how much money you're going to make somewhere. So if that's the case for them, they could very well sign value deals and come back and play in Pittsburgh again. You've got Frankie Corrado, who's sort of that tweener category too. I could see him ending up in Vegas, not as an expansion pick, but more as a tryout for Vegas to make their team. He's almost good enough to be a regular NHLer. He's not quite there, which is why Vancouver waived him. And then Toronto got rid of him, and now Pittsburgh's in a position where they're likely going to as well. In net, Marc-Andre Fleury will not be a Penguin by the fall. That takes almost $6 million off their cap. That adds about $18 million they'll have available under the cap. $19 million almost. Where does he go and for what? What are you getting back? So the big rumor has always been, well, Calgary. It fits Calgary. It's a perfect fit for Calgary. Fine. What are they getting back, though, from Calgary? Is it just a matter of a draft pick? Because they have 16 this year, so I can't see that being the case. I can't see Pittsburgh moving Marc-Andre Fleury for the number 16 draft pick in what is considered a shallow draft. And they're not going to take back a bad contract. They might take back a blue liner, but which blue liner from Calgary is going to fit in with Pittsburgh? That's an interesting question that I guess we'll find out in the offseason, because it's Matt Murray's net. And Tristan Jarry is likely the backup. There'll be competition for that backup job. If Jarry isn't ready, I'm sure they'll bring in a stopgap for a year until he is ready. I think you'd be nervous as a GM of a team that you have two goaltenders, one's 23 and one's 22. But Murray has quite the pedigree as a winner so far in his NHL career. And coming up big in high-pressure games, which is really, with a young goaltender, that's gold. It's gold to have a young goaltender who comes up big in all of your high-profile, big-money games. And that's Matt Murray. That's why Marc-Andre Fleury is available, because Murray is that good. So I guess it's a key situation of how do you fix what's not broken? How do you fix what you don't need to fix right now because they look like Stanley Cup champions for 2 years in a row? How do you get to year 3 is the key. Because if they get to year 3, then we're talking dynasty, and everybody's, all excited about that, and it would be the first dynasty we've seen since the Oilers. So how do you get there? For me, Malkin and Crosby as your 1-2 center, that's incomparable. There isn't a team in the league that can compete with that. Letang on that blue line, if he's healthy again. And I know it's a dicey subject, but Letang is not healthy a lot. You need guys on your team that are healthy a lot. And it's funny because looking at Pittsburgh's lineup, it reminds me of what Brian McClellan of Washington said. It's easier to break it than it is to make it better. Pittsburgh is absolutely in that category. It is easier to break a Stanley Cup champion than it is to repair a Stanley Cup champion. Because as far as I can tell, as long as they bring Schultz back, and if Letang can get back to health, they're fine. I don't see any weaknesses in Pittsburgh going into next season. I absolutely can see them winning 3 in a row. Should they finish off Nashville in this series that's currently being played as I'm recording this, I can absolutely see them winning 3 in a row. And I won't make that mistake come next year's playoff time. If things look the way they do now, I would pick Pittsburgh to win the Stanley Cup. Because I should have picked them at the start of this year's playoffs, and I've been kicking myself since the start of this year's playoffs for not doing so. And, I've talked in other videos about how I don't necessarily cheer for them and how it's difficult to cheer for them. And it's easy to cheer for an underdog. Very easy. But there's a reason they're underdogs. They're usually not as good as the favorite. And almost anybody up against this Pittsburgh lineup is going to struggle. They're going to struggle to prevent goals. They're going to struggle to get goals on Matt Murray. And they're going to struggle with that blue line. That blue line's been underrated all season. And when there was injury issues early on in the playoffs, and I was still saying I think Pittsburgh's a Stanley Cup contender, people said, you're crazy. Not without Letang. Yep. They don't need to lead on the shot clock. They don't need to lead in chances. They don't need to lead in hits. They don't need to lead in anything. Just the score at the end of the game. And nobody does it better than Pittsburgh. So, let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.